Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're mapping out a topic that sounds straightforward on paper but gets, well, incredibly complex when you apply it to the last frontier. We're talking about navigating school choice and open enrollment in Alaska. If you're a parent or an education policy watcher, you already know the rules can literally change based on your zip code. So let's break down the latest guidance, uncover the limitations, and help you effectively plot your course. Okay, let's dive into this and look at our roadmap for demystifying how this policy actually works for Alaskan families. We'll start with what is open enrollment, move into the unique Alaskan landscape, and then cover rules, reality, and limits. After that, it's steps for Alaska families, and we'll wrap up by watching the 2026 horizon. Let's kick things off with part one. What is open enrollment? The baseline definition. Simply put, open enrollment is a school choice policy that lets students attend a public school other than the one assigned by their home address. At its core, it's really about boundary flexibility. It allows a student to apply outside their default attendance area. Now, depending entirely on the local district, that might mean moving to a different school within your current district, or even applying to cross-district lines completely. It's a policy that appeals to families looking for a specialized program, maybe a different academic environment, or honestly just a campus that's closer to a parent's workplace or childcare. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the stark contrast between concept and reality. There's a common myth out there that open enrollment equates to an automatic transfer right, and, well, it absolutely doesn't. While it does create more options for a specialized program or a better commute, it never actually guarantees a seat in every school. You have the option to apply, sure, but district policies and available space always dictate the final answer. It's a really crucial distinction to keep in mind. Moving on to part two, the unique Alaskan landscape, charting the terrain. 53. That is the number of distinct school districts in Alaska. And let me tell you, the variance between them is absolutely staggering. We're talking about massive urban districts right alongside extremely remote ones. Because of this, a single statewide definition of school choice shatters into dozens of different practical realities depending entirely on where you live. The official guidance actually puts it perfectly. Communities may be separated by long distances, water, or weather-dependent travel. You see, a policy that sounds super easy to implement in urban Anchorage is a totally different beast in a remote village, unless you know your daily commute involves hopping on a bush plane or a boat. Up here, school choice is deeply, deeply tied to practical, physical access, not just what a parent prefers. Let's compare these Alaskan realities side by side for a second. Out in rural villages, the nearest alternative school might literally only be accessible by plane or a seasonal road. Open enrollment in those spots might actually require a family to physically relocate or rely heavily on correspondence and online learning. Contrast that with our urban hubs, where the challenges are a bit more traditional, commuting times, daily traffic, and localized program capacity. It's two totally different settings requiring entirely different approaches to the exact same state policy. Which brings us to part three, rules, reality, and limits, the fine print. So the crucial point is that districts have very specific criteria they must weigh before ever approving a transfer. They have to look at whether there's actually room in the requested grade, if you met the strict application deadlines, and who handles the transportation. They also have to assess their ability to provide any required student services and exactly what impact your transfer would have on class size or staffing. In communities with few alternatives and tight capacity, these local rules are the ultimate deciders. And let's pause on one incredibly important detail. Transportation is usually the family's responsibility. Even if you navigate all the paperwork, hit every deadline, and get that coveted acceptance letter, the daily logistics of getting your kid to and from that new school almost always falls squarely on your shoulders. It's a massive daily commitment of both time and resources. We also really need to differentiate open enrollment from other forms of school choice. Open enrollment is strictly about transferring between traditional public schools. Things like charter schools and state-funded public correspondence programs, those are totally different animals. They often have entirely different admissions rules and structures, so you absolutely can't assume the standard open enrollment playbook applies perfectly to them. All right, let's get practical with part four, Steps for Alaska Families, the Survival Guide. Let's move to and see how this builds your actionable path. Step 1, simply ask if the district accepts transfer requests at all. Step 2, confirm those application deadlines well before the school year even starts. Step 3, ask directly about grade level caps or waitlists. Step 4, sort out your daily transportation plan. And Step 5, verify the delivery of student support services. Following this exact sequence ensures you aren't caught off guard by any hidden local hurdles. Just to expand on that last step for a second, for families of students with disabilities, English learners, or students with specialized needs, a transfer should never, ever create a gap in support. You want to proactively confirm exactly how these necessary services will be delivered if your transfer is approved, and do this long before you finalize the move. And here's a quick, highly practical tip to round out our survival guide. Keep copies of all application materials and responses. Bureaucracies run on paperwork, right? So maintaining your own clear, organized paper trail is literally one of the smartest things you can do to protect your family's options. Finally, Part 5, Watching the 2026 Horizon, the Legislative Landscape. So, as of 2026, Alaska's open enrollment policy environment is incredibly active. The state legislature is currently considering legislation specifically addressing this topic in public schools. We're pointing this out just to highlight that this is a live, evolving policy question. It is definitely not a settled matter. Relying on old assumptions or norms from other states, well, it's a risky move right now. Because of this, families really need to monitor 3 key areas: legislative changes at the state level, district-level implementation, and evolving school capacity. A statewide policy sets the broad framework, but your day-to-day experience is dictated locally. And this brilliantly illustrates why 2 families in completely different districts might face entirely different hurdles for the exact same request. Since all these details are in motion, the safest approach, hands down, is to check the most recent district guidance before making any decisions. A school that warmly accepted transfers last year might have completely different rules this year based on shifting enrollment numbers or staffing changes. Always verify the current reality on the ground. Which brings us to the end of our explainer. I want to leave you with a critical question to think about. Does your local open enrollment policy actually match your family's reality? Open enrollment offers a fantastic, flexible pathway, but it simply doesn't erase the realities of distance, district capacity, or daily transportation. So look up your local guidelines today, verify your options, and make sure the policy truly aligns with your child's needs. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive, and keep learning.